Hello, my name is Carms, and I'm so excited to be your accounting coach. First, please like our Facebook page, Accounting Tutorial Online Class. Accounting Tutorial Online Class is an online platform to learn accounting in the most practical way. Here, we will learn and have fun as we master basic accounting and expect to learn a ton of great things. So, let's get started! Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Accounting Tutorial Online Class. Our topic for today is about assets. Okay, so are you ready? Okay, so first, the discussion for today is we'll talk about the definition of assets, the types of assets, and then we have to understand each type of assets and some key takeaways that we need to remember when we are dealing with assets. Okay, so let's start. Okay. All right. So who amongst you have experienced this one? Who probably you're a working student or a working professional by now, or at some point in your life you have experienced this one. You were asked what are some reasons you'd be valuable asset to our company. So, 'di ba, kapag tinanong ka na niya ng CEO or the boss, being an accountant, especially if you're an accountant, dapat alam mo to. This is the most, one of the question that would actually save your day, no? Kapag alam mo the meaning of an asset. So meaning, they are willing to hire you if you would be valuable to the company. So now, if you want to relate about this, let's talk about assets. Kung bakit siya important. Okay? Okay. So asset show what the business owns. Have a future economic value that can be measured. So meaning meron kang value. So for example, when you say meron kang value, hindi lang sasabihin yes, mahalaga yan. Yes, I'm important. Dapat there is some kind of a value, that is, nakakabit dun sa things or item na yon. So it has this amount, either 500,000, a 1 million peso, 5 pounds, whatever it is, it has to have a value. So that is that's how you would identify it as an asset. And also remember, it is reported on a company's balance sheet. Okay, so as you remember in our accounting equation, diba, there is asset equals liabilities plus equity or capital. Okay, so ito yon. So ito yung part na yon, alright? Alright, okay. Now, let's talk about the types of assets. Okay. Next. Okay, so types naman, okay, we will discuss about current. Actually, there are two types. We have the current, yes, this one, and then the number 2 is the non-current assets. Okay, non-current assets. Okay, the current assets we will discuss later ano yung mga laman niya. But in the non-current assets, normally yan, ito yan, si fixed assets, financial assets, which is basically yung mga long term. So don't get mistaken that as a whole, all financial assets are non-current. We have to still identify which one are actually short and which one are versus a long term. And for purposes of this discussion, we are talking about the long term portion of the financial assets, all right? And of course, the intangible assets, okay, which technically we are referring to as long term. Normally naman, long term siya. Alright, so let's understand further yung different examples of assets. Okay. Alright, so let's talk about the current assets. And the current assets are short-term economic resources that are expected to be converted into cash within 1 year. So, kunyari, so if you have a timeline, okay, yan, so 1 year, and then this is 5, diba? Normally, ganyan, maglalagay ka ng timeline, diba, on your accounts. So, basically, excuse me, all of those items that fall under the 1 year, meaning convertible, okay, to cash within 1 year. So, what are those? Yan, yan. Syempre, cash itself na yan. Cash in bank, cash in bank, yan. Mga madaling ma-convert sa cash anytime within 1 year. Cash equivalents, ito yung mga investments. Okay? So, ito na yung sinasabi ko na some financial assets. Kasi there are investments that are very short-term. Time deposit. Okay? Diba? And this is just normally 1 month, 30 days. Meron yan. Merong 3 months. 3 months, yan. So, meron din namang investments like money market fund. This is a form of investment wherein it invests into a money market at maybe about 6% return. But this is readily available anytime you want to withdraw. So normally 5 to, I don't know, 3, if I'm not mistaken, 5 to 7 banking days yung mga money markets. Okay, so those are the examples of cash equivalents. And accounts receivable. So accounts receivable, this is your invoice, diba? So, ikaw to ha, ikaw na company ang nagbibigay ng invoice. So, meron kang $100, pwedeng peso, na binil. Diba dito laging merong terms? Kaya ka nagbibigay ng invoice. Merong yes, due immediately, meron namang 30 days, 45, 60. Wala akong nakita in my experience that says, this is due next year. Nope, that's not the case. Okay, so that's why AR is part of your current assets. Your inventory is readily available and readily convertible to cash as well. Kasi, kunyari, if you're running a bakery, you would have flour, you would have sugar, you would have butter, all of those, readily convertible to cash. Either i-transform mo sila into the material and then sell it, or this one itself is readily marketable. Okay? And of course, your prepaid expenses. And something to note here, that again, ulit-ulit ko, this is reported on the balance sheet based on the concept of historical cost. Meaning, kung magkano mo siya na-acquire, yung asset mo, that's the value na i-record mo sa books mo. Okay? So, kung yung truck mo is acquired at 1M, then that's gonna be 1M. And of course, this is being depreciated, which we will talk about later. Okay, so that is your current assets. Okay, so let's talk about fixed assets naman. So, ano naman si fixed assets? Ayan, so fixed assets are long-term. Ayan na, so sinasabi ko na, kita mo na dito, long-term. So, on your timeline, so ito na yung mga nandito. Diba? So, 1 year, hindi na siya. So, dito na tayo. So, such as what? Plants. Ano yung mga plants? Factories. Yan. Equipment. Ano yan? Machineries. Diba? Yung mga matagalan natin na gamit. Buildings. Office building. Wow, ang bongga ng business mo. If you have your own office building, why not? That's gonna be your asset. Who doesn't want to have this one para makasave ka sa what? Rent, expense. Diba? Mga yan. So, and of course, it's another income generating if you have your own building, right? Okay, so these fixed assets have an adjustment for their aging. So, as they age, as they grow old, a fixed asset is made based on periodic charges called depreciation. So, ito yung ibinabawas natin doon sa value ng asset, which has two methods, the straight line and the accelerated. So, let's talk about straight line. Ito yung straight line is actually computation ng depreciation over the useful life. Straight line lang siya. For example, a laptop. A laptop is costing 50,000 pesos and its useful life is 5 years. So that means you will have to just divide it straight by line basis, 50,000 divided by 5 years. So your depreciation is 10,000. So every year, babawasan mo yung ni-record mo na 50 ng 10,000 kasi you are assuming na syempre yung capacity niya nagde-deteriorate na as we go along. Ganun din sa machineries. 'Di ba? Sa pagbago, very efficient. Pag luma na, nagkakaroon ka ng maintenance. So, ibig sabihin yung value niya bumababa. Which means, hindi mo na pwedeng ibenta i-convert to cash si laptop after 3 years ng same amount na 50K. It will be about 30K na lang or to 20K na lang kasi na-depreciate na siya. What about the accelerated method? Ito naman, yung accelerated method naman is you will determine the depreciation based on the timing. For example, on the first year, first year of life of the fixed asset, mas mataas ang usage mo sa kanya. Say, for example, 50%. So, meaning, 50% ng 50 is 25, yan na kagad ibabawas mo. Kasi assuming na na-utilize mo siya ng husto eh. Okay? On the second year, 30. Third year, 20. So, yan. Or 10. Or pwedeng 15, 5. Ganyan. So kumbaga, accelerating from the old, kumbaga yung parang as it grows old yung asset mo. Okay? So assuming na use na siya agad first year of operation pa lang. Okay? So that's your accelerated method. Okay? So now that you know about fixed assets, siguro naman hindi ka na matutulad dito. Okay? Yan. So nakita ko lang to sa FB, sabi ni ate girl, yung nilagay mo sa current assets, yung office building. So guys, huwag niyong gagawin yan na ilalagay niyo sa current assets. Kasi, office building is something na, and again, going back to the definition of asset, dapat readily convertible into cash on the same year. Would you think your office building will be converted to cash by the same year? By nature, it's not, unless it's held for sale. Ibang accounting na tayo doon. Okay? So, yan. So, take note of this, ha? Okay. Alright. So, let's talk about financial assets naman. So, financial assets represents investments in the assets and securities of other institution. Ito na yung nabanggit ko kanina. So, for example, stocks. Let's talk about stocks. So, ito yung, ikaw si company, you are investing 50 million pesos kay sinong gusto nyo investa natin? Jollibee! Yan. Invest tayo ng 50 million. So, yung stocks, ibibigyan niya tayo ng related stocks. Which means, ang stocks is what? Ownership. So, dito, i-determine ni JFC or ni Jollibee kung how much. Normally, sinasabi, okay, so company A owns 50% ownership shares of JFC. So, kunyari, sabihin natin 50% ownership. Yung 50% na yan is part of our financial assets, the stocks, and its value. So, over time, nag-appreciate ang value niyan, okay? So, depende sa performance ng company na nag-invest ka. Ayan. And then it's considered as non-current kasi long-term by nature ang stocks. Hindi ka kikita over like a 1 year. Of course, it depends, but by general standard, hindi ganun kabilis yun. Normally, 20 years. Talagang matagal siya. Ganun din yung corporate bonds. Matagal to. Meron yung 10-year bond or 20-year bond for a fixed rate of 5%. So, it's also an investment para sa atin. Kasi kunyari, we avail, nangungutang si SMC, San Miguel. Okay, nagpautang tayo ng 50 million ulit. So, binigyan niya tayo ng corporate bonds. at payable within 20 years, 5% per month, per annum, blah, blah, blah. So, yung investment mo na yun sa kanila is considered as your financial assets. Ganun din for the preferred equity, which is similar to stocks. It's just that it so happen it's preferred. Maganda yung preferred, guys, kasi preferred ka. Kumbaga sa bangko, mayroon kang special lane. Yan. Palagi ikaw yung mauuna pag ganun siya. And other hybrid securities may be FX, derivatives, yan, mga ganyan. But I'm not gonna talk about that today. It's just, giving an example. Okay, so that's your financial assets. So what about intangible assets? Intangible assets are economic resources that have no physical presence. Okay, walang physical presence. So yun yung key na word natin doon. Pero it has value. Again, we have to always have value. Okay, as discussed. Okay? So, ano-ano yung mga yon? They include patents, trademarks, copyrights, and goodwill. So, one example I have is music. Diba? Meron niyang, ownership yan. Kaya yung music, guys, pag anytime, gagamitin nyo siya without consent. Kunyari, kakantahin mo siya without consent ng mismong owner or the composer itself, you will be held liable for that eh. So, it just happen na yung usual, yung casual natin, okay lang yun. Kasi we're crediting it back kung kunyari Michael Jackson man yan, Justin Bieber, ganyan. What else? Yung mga songs na composed originally. Yan. Kaya 'di ba kapag may mga singer, lagi nilang i-mention composed by, ganyan. Kasi sa kanila yun. Kailangan nilang i-mention yun because of that ownership. Kasi hindi niya pag-aari yun. What else? Article. Yan, article. Especially, kaya bawal yung mga nangongopya lang. Kasi mayroon niyang copyright. Yung mga article, kala nyo, basta-basta pwede nating kopyahin yan. No, may copyright issue yan kapag nakita yan. Kaya nga, di ba, if you remember one of the news about plagiarism, yan yung mga kaso na may encounter natin if you copy an article na merong copyright registration, mga ganyan. So, if you're familiar, yan, yung mga IPO, trademark is here. Yan, kunyari, if you have a brand, for example, let me plug our business, Tristan's Ice Cream Candy. Yan. Ice cream. Shameful. Plugging. I'm sorry. Yan. Ito kasi, meron tong branding. Okay? Meron siyang branding na logo, meron siyang branding ng pangalan itself. So that no one will ever use this one. Okay? Kasi what if this gets very famous, which is na air na siya sa TV, everybody knows this, pero somebody else used the same name. Ayun, hindi pwede yun kasi pag-aari niya yun. So, ibig sabihin dahil may pag-aari niya yun, may value na yun sa kanya as part of this company's assets. So, no one can actually just, use that. So, careful kayo guys when trying to deal with digital assets din. Yan, mga photos. Yan. Yung mga photos na yan, hindi porke available sa internet yan, anytime, pwede mo nang sabihin pag-aari mo. Okay? Kaya napapansin nyo, meron tayo lagi sa FB, CTTO, credits to the owner. Tama yan, kasi kanya yan. Although hindi mo na matrace kung sino si CTTO, kung sino yung owner, it's proper that you use this kasi para ma-free up ka for any legal action later kapag you falsely own something like that. Okay, so that's your intangible assets. Okay, so before we go, let's take a look at our key takeaways about assets. Okay, so let's read this. Assets are anything of monetary value. Again, monetary is palagi yung sinasabi. It has to have a value. Okay, currency, or we can actually identify. We can just say, yep, akin yan, pero you don't know how much is it. Owned by a person or a business. It is important for individuals and organizations to keep track of their assets. Important yan. Siyempre sa'yo yan. Pag-aari mo yan. Okay? So, pag-aaralan natin later on kung paano natin siya matatrack. For now, let's just define it. And then, an assets are recorded on companies' balance sheets based on the concept of historical cost, which is represents the original, yan ang sinasabi ko kanina, original cost of the asset adjusted for any improvements or aging. Aging, ito yung sa depreciation. While improvements, ito yung sa appreciation. Meaning, land. Are you depreciating land, guys? Don't ever do that, Land normally appreciates, okay? So, ang gagawin mo dyan as a business is to look at the fair market value. Magkano na ba ang value ng land mo as of your recording date? Kunyari, na-acquire mo siya ng 100,000 nung year 2000. By year 2020, magkano na siya? Diba? 1 million na siya. Hindi mo siya de-depreciate. But how would you know that? Fair market value. By experience, I think you definitely you can get that from one good source for me is BIR actually. Kasi yung mga nagbebenta real estate, they have this but there could be other way, no? It's just that it's my personal opinion na malalaman mo yung fair market value ng lupa mo. Okay? So, with that key takeaways, you are now able to define assets, and I want to leave you with this quote about that you guys surround yourself with assets and not liabilities. Technically speaking, if you want to be practical about it, yes, I want you to have a lot of assets in your, as you grow, as you acquire more in life, if you become an accountant, a CPA, or, even if you're a student, you should be able to surround yourself with assets and not liabilities. Don't dwell on liabilities. But don't get me wrong, liabilities is not bad. There are good liabilities, good debts na tinatawag. And we are going to discuss that on our liabilities topic. Okay? With that, I want to thank you for listening today, and I'll see you soon. I'll prepare some examples and computation for you so we can master how to compute the assets. And again, this is Accounting Tutorial Online Class. I would like to say goodbye and thank you everyone for watching. Bye!